So I wanted to make a video that's going to be pretty controversial, I would assume, because a lot of people don't really like the truth. But the topic is that your ex, that you have all of this like unresolved trauma from or baggage from, or that you feel like screwed you over, newsflash, your ex is not the problem. And really, in most of these situations, we need to be looking at ourselves. So I know this is kind of a controversial thing, like in the generation where everybody is super hyper focused on narcissists and trauma and triggers and all of that. I wanted to make a video on the flip side about it because I've actually had really amazing experiences with past partners, with ex-friends, and just scenarios and ways that I've really had an opportunity to grow and learn. And I just can't stand this culture of narcissists and triggers and traumas and all of that. Like, I think it's really beautiful that we are starting to be self-reflective, and I think it's beautiful that we are observing when certain behaviors are really not healthy. But to just label anyone a narcissist and to label everything a trigger or trauma, I just think isn't truly fair, and I think it's kind of a cop-out. So I will personally say, with me, I've had a lot, like I would say the majority of my relationships have been very explosive in their endings. There's not a lot of people in my life that I can just say, oh, well, we grew apart. Like, there's always something that happened. And although in my mind, I had very specific details of like, this is how they screwed me over, or this is how they weren't being a good like partner or a good friend or whatever. I also had to take note about, okay, Jordan, you're the person that's having all of these like issues, and a lot of these relationships like mirror each other, and a lot of them are like looking very similar. So what's the issue here? Like, who's the issue? Is it them or is it you? And I will say that it's a mixture of both. And I think that something I can't stand that I'm seeing right now as so many people are going down these spiritual journeys and all of that is that like they're just so quick to label everyone else the problem instead of looking at themselves and saying, okay, hey, where were you showing codependency, or where were you showing like lack of understanding or communication, or where were you looking for love that you should have been getting from yourself, instead of saying, oh, well, this person used me, or this person abandoned me, all of these different things. Like, I think at this point in time with our generation, we're so used to just labeling everyone else and everything else as the problem, instead of looking at ourselves and saying, okay, where was I the problem and where can I grow from this situation? I personally have been like so lucky and or not lucky. I've been very blessed that I do have a handful of relationships in my life that have been extremely self-reflective and or jointly reflective amongst myself and the other person. And it's been super helpful that like once all of the smoke clears and all of like the emotions and like finger pointing and all of that has cleared, I've been able to come together with certain people in my past and present and say, okay, hey, where did we both show up to this relationship in a way that maybe was not super healthy? And it's been very helpful for me and has allowed me to be very self-reflective myself, and also has helped the other person, the other people as well. And I think that like that's something that is so crucial that I know sometimes it can be hard to like differentiate, okay, you need to let this person go, like there's no need to go back to an ex or an old friend. I know sometimes we have some of these thoughts where like maybe an unhealed part of us wants to go and fix relationships with people. But I think there's a big difference between like needing to fix a relationship and needing to have the answers and understanding of what went wrong. I think there's a big difference between that and then also a difference between coming together with somebody who's also emotionally ready, prepared, and equipped to have just like a real, like, self-reflective conversation. And it's not even about closure. With certain relationships, I think that's something that's really beautiful about life is just like allowing things to flow and allowing to just have big open question marks and not getting all of the answers that we need in the immediate moment or that year or 2 years from now. But I think that when you can come together with someone and it's a very like safe environment and you're able to like really talk through just maybe some of like the different perspectives that two different people had in a particular relationship, I think it can be so helpful and can provide so much insight to your personal journey. And maybe like a continuation journey with that specific relationship, but oftentimes not. I will say that like a lot of the really difficult conversations I've had with people, like people from my past, it's helped me grow so much as a person. Like my entire spiritual journey growth really stemmed from like 1 or 2 very specific relationships in my life. And I know that I wouldn't have had that much growth and change and desire to seek answers about myself if I wouldn't have experienced those relationships, and also if I wouldn't have had somebody who was able to kind of sit with me and talk with me through just the experiences of those relationships. So I'm very open and like can be very honest that most people are not in circumstances where you can have a self-reflective, truth, honest conversation with somebody who has wronged you or who you feel has wronged you. But in the rare circumstances that you feel like you're in a place and another person is in a place to have a real like down-to-earth conversation, an open conversation about maybe like where you went wrong, where they went wrong, what triggers were touched, what shadows were you not seeing within yourself or they weren't seeing within themselves. Like I think if you can find somebody, I think if you are dealing with a relationship with somebody, it doesn't matter who it is, a parent, a friend, an ex-lover, whoever. But if you're dealing with another person who you feel like is in a headspace to be able to have some deep, hard conversations, I truly think that that is where a lot of your personal growth comes from, is just your relationships with others. And I think so often we're so quick to write off people and say like, oh, I'm never talking to them again. They were the problem. They're this, they're that. And I think we're completely missing the fact that there's so much growth in our relationships, the good ones and the bad ones, specifically the bad ones. And I just wanted to make a video about the fact that number one, if you're struggling with relationships, like a lot of your relationships, you may be the problem. And number two, if you are hopefully in a place where you're like interested, you're inquisitive about self-reflection, about your healing journey, hopefully some of your relationships are also with people that are on that same path as well. So if you are in relationships or had previous relationships with people that are also on that path, I would really second guess maybe even connecting with them or allowing the universe to bring you guys back together to have some difficult conversations. I personally am somebody who really doesn't like to just leave things on just unpleasant notes, because I'm like a really big lover. Like if I love somebody, no matter who it is, no matter what the relationship is, if I love somebody, like I really, really love hard, and I don't like leaving things like unsaid, question marks, bad blood, all of that. But I do think that obviously there's time and space and energy that has to like come in between two people when energies are super heavy. But I think if you can allow time to go by, and if you're dealing with people that possibly can be self-reflective, I think it's super, super important to your personal healing journey. And it's not about mending stuff with that person. It's not about mending like having them continue on like in your life. It's not about that. It's just about how can we stop pointing the fingers at everyone else around us, all of these narcissists and all these people that trigger me and all my traumas. Like, how can we move away from all of those things and really start to be self-reflective and just use other people as mirrors? So this is my controversial video about your ex best friend, your ex lover. They're not the problem. Wholly. Not all the way. I think that we have to understand that we are also in these relationships, and if we lack boundaries, if we desire codependency, if we lack self-love or integrity or whatever, like, we can't just point the finger at everybody else and say they were the only person that participated in that toxic relationship. So I want to know from you, what experiences have you had with somebody that you are no longer like involved with, whether it be a friend, a parent, a lover? Like, what experiences have you had where you maybe have like let that relationship go, and then maybe you guys came back later and like had conversations and self-growth, or maybe even comment below, like, do you currently have people in your life that you would like to have a sit down with and have a conversation with and say, hey, like, where can we both come to some sort of like mutual like openness and have a real conversation about what happened? I want to know, because I know I can't be the only person that is like trying to be self-reflective in my relationships or past relationships. I want to know kind of where you guys are at. So leave a comment below and I will talk to you guys in the next video.